basically I've put together 29 steps that I think has got me to where I am today. And I think there's some fundamental steps in it that hopefully a lot of you can take advice on. And I've seen common patterns training people, building their businesses and working on my own as to how things scale and continue to do so, but also how things can scale and then you hit a roadblock and then all of a sudden it can be taken away from you. And I see that time and time again is the momentum gets lost, or they just don't hire people. They see hiring as a cost rather than investment. And it's just various different mindsets that I really want you to pay attention to, whether you're just starting halfway through, your first year, or whether you've actually scaled a business and you're kicking on, past 100, 200K. It doesn't really matter. I think the principles are the same. So I'm just going to run through that. If anyone's got any questions at any time, either just hop off mute because we are just a small bunch, or if you want to type in the chat, whatever, but feel free to just hop off mute and stop me mid-sentence, and we can get them all answered for you. Can everyone see the presentation okay? Yeah, cool. So the idea is to, you're all going to go through this over the coming weeks, months, and years. And for me, I think it's easier to take a business past 1 million than it is to actually get it to 100,000. So if you get it to that 100,000 part, I think you really want to pat yourself on the back. I think most startups fail. Most businesses fail within the first 5 years. So, to kind of just get it past, making 100,000 in revenue is, a big pat on the back. And I know some of you are close to that, and some of you are definitely heading in the right direction for that, and some of you have surpassed that as well. So the downside of 100 grand business is that typically it's just another job, and you're likely working the business, you're the only ones in the business, and you're doing all the day-to-days. And whereas once you start to push it past 1 million, then you're likely going to have a team around you, and it feels a bit more of a business. You start to have an impact in other people's lives and in the wider target markets and audiences and things like that. So this is kind of the step-by-step process of scaling. You can likely change these steps. This is just kind of the way that I've done it multiple times, and it's worked for me. So I'm going to share what I know, which is kind of all I ever do. I don't think you can preach something that you haven't done, and hopefully you can get some real good insights from what I've done and what I've done with the team here, and what we're kind of doing going forward to kind of keep things moving. Because I think a lot of people are quite surprised at how quick I have scaled, but I think when you look at the underlying education that I've had prior to actually starting my property business, there's been a lot of other businesses that I got involved with and failed with. There's been a lot of careers where I was at quite a high level, so got involved in kind of the high level business type stuff, and they're all great learnings for bringing into your own business. And I'm pretty sure all of you, whatever jobs you've done in the past, whatever jobs you're currently doing, there'll be things that are great there, things that you like, things you don't like, and you should always be taking note of that and thinking, okay, well, what can I do in my business to make it better? Especially if it's something you don't like. So first thing is get clear about exactly what you deliver. I think this is a fundamental point, but it also will change as we'll come on to. So take a look at your products and services that you offer, and then really understand the profit margins of those products. And as they always say, like if you had to hire somebody to deliver those services, you're going to need it to be a high profit margin, because you're also going to have to pay them a salary or bonuses. So you're going to have to weigh that cost as well. Does that then still make profit? And that's kind of the products that you want. I've got 3 that I really focus on now. Over the years, I've tried lots of stuff, and I'm a big fan of testing stuff and trying stuff. And I've got no problem with people doing that. But I am a big believer that once you start to really find where you're going and you start to analyze stuff, then you'll come on to, hopefully probably something very similar. So number 1 is I buy assets, which definitely yields the largest profits. but it does take the longest to acquire, and obviously takes the most capital as well. So, I started with BRR strategy, and now obviously moving into kind of development and actually just purchasing stuff out right now rather than looking to refurb them. I just want to get going. I just want it to get, cash flow quickly. So that is I think the main goal for everybody, but not necessarily where you might start, because depending on what your liquidity is behind the scenes, you may or may not be able to pull that off, but it's definitely a much longer route. Renting properties, which is probably where the core of us all sit. And I used to think that I'd only rent until I got loads of money, and then I'd stop renting and I'd just buy assets. But then I realized how good the rental arbitrage game is when you actually get it right, and why stop that cash flow, that positive cash flow coming in that can continue to buy assets. As long as it's going to pay you each month, as long as you can control assets and make money out of them, you don't necessarily need to own them. So again, great model. You can move a lot quicker. You can rent 5 properties this week, 10 properties this week. You can get them set up within a week or two, and you're up and running, cash flow, and you're not having to outlay all the costs of stamp duty, legals, etc. The next part, which was then obviously the management model, and managing investors' properties who want to benefit from the experience that we've got in the short-term rental game. They don't necessarily have the time, the know-how, or even the motivation to learn it all, put it all together. They just want to work with a trusted brand and piggyback off their experience. And that is another good model for us. That moves a lot quicker. We can pick up, a lot of units on that model, and we can, move quickly with that model. But naturally, the profit margins are a lot lower, and you've got to make sure that it's worth your while doing it. It's worth my while doing it because I've been through the pain of building the systems, processes, staff, and all the softwares and everything behind the scenes. If I was starting again, would I do it? I'm not entirely sure. I might just focus on buying assets and renting. But, we are where we are, and they're kind of the 3 models that I focus on. And I think your businesses will probably become something very similar. But you do need to understand what your high profit margins are, and then do more and more of that as you go on. You need to get clear on the audience that you're actually serving. I know we're kind of working really hard on the marketing element with you all, and trying to educate more and more about marketing and brand development, and getting engagement, because I don't think enough property businesses actually pay attention to this side of the business. I think they just think it's about going out, buying an asset, and then that's easy because we just go to an estate agent, or we just go rent from a landlord, and that's it. But really, we're different. We're a hospitality business. We're not a property business. I actually think we're a marketing business, and I've thought that for a while. I built the whole business on Facebook, and I didn't really build it by going to estate agents. I built it on Facebook by marketing and leveraging my marketing skills. And I generally think we are a marketing business. We need to market to landlords, we need to market to estate agents, but we also need to market to guests. We need to be able to, bring the two together into our product, which is obviously our property. So I think you've got to get clear on who you are actually serving. So for your first 100 grand, you'll pretty much just deliver to anyone. I was very much like that in the beginning, where I would take on any property. Literally, if somebody said yes, I'd take it on, and I'd just figure out how to make it look nice. I would take on any management client, even if they were being a nightmare. I would, just take any asset that sounded good and looked okay on paper. But as I've got more experience, and as we developed, we've probably got rid of 80 units in the last 8 months, I would say. Just don't meet brand standards. We don't want to work with the landlords anymore because they're unreasonable. We don't want to work with the management clients anymore because they won't upgrade their properties, and therefore it's our account that suffers with the reviews. The properties aren't in the right location for short-term rental anymore, and that's clearly our strategy. So we're getting rid of all of our buy-to-lets that don't work. We're selling them off, and any buy-to-lets that we've got tenants in, we're serving notices on those tenants, and we're moving them into the short-term rental segment, because that's my product. If we come back to step number 1, that is clear what my product and service is. That's where the profit margin is for me. So that's all I am focusing on, rather than trying to be Mr. HMO, Mr. Buy to Let, Mr. Short-term rental, Mr. Developer. For me, it's just get focused on the one thing. So, anyone can list a property on Airbnb and get a certain level of bookings, but you've got to understand who your specific audience is to be able to then really leverage it. So for us, we operate with multiple characters because we operate in different markets, but typically in the main, it's contractors traveling with most of our major UK cities. That's who we really identify. That's who our adverts talk to. That's what our listing descriptions talk to. And that's who we go after. Our remote or seaside type properties will be targeting more the tourism side of things. That's a much smaller percentage of our portfolio. The majority is your kind of major cities with your contractors traveling. And in Dubai, we target expats who are coming over, moving over to the country because they can't get accommodation probably for the first 3 to 4 months. And obviously there's a big tourism side on that platform. But as it kind of says, or as I've stated here, understanding what type of guest uses what type of platform is hugely important, because we have different websites and you might list a property on one with a certain description, but you might list the same property on another with a certain description. So for example, you wouldn't want to put your property on a trade stay website and start talking about tourism. Similarly on Airbnb, you've got to kind of mix for both. So we've got some websites out in Dubai which are kind of expat heavy. You want to talk about expat rather than tourism. As I kind of said here, you wouldn't want to advertise care homes for people in their 80s on TikTok because there's no one in care homes on TikTok on the masses. It's just a very sort of tongue-in-cheek explanation there, but there's no point putting something in front of people where they're not there. So you've got to make sure that everything is in the right place for your marketing. Don't get too set on a vision or a mission. It's important to understand personally where you want to go. And I do think it's important to have a vision. So, I initially had a vision of 1,000 properties. I've still got that, but that's now personally. I have a bigger vision now of 5,000 properties involving all you guys in the franchise network. And, I think if, at the end of the day, if I can get 100 franchisees getting 50 properties each, I've got 5,000 properties within the network, so you break it down, it's not actually that big of a deal. So we've just got to do our job to get the 100 franchisees, and then you've got to do your job to get the 50, and we need to support you in getting those 50. So, you can always have a vision, but don't get too hung up on it. I am a big believer that you go with the flow. Whatever you feel is working, lean more in that direction. If it's not working, don't be afraid to cut it off. Don't be afraid to say this isn't working. We're out. We're not doing this anymore. You could switch a few weeks, months, or years down the line. It's okay. Just be open to adapting. Don't get stuck on one thing. I started off with one idea. I ended up doing a bit of HMOs, ended up doing a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of that. But now, as I've got more experience, I've kind of channeled it all into one focus area. And also, not all ideas are going to work, and sometimes you'll end up in places that you never thought you would be. But you are where you are, and you just got to solve your own problems. And if it's not working, you got to get out of them. And if it is working, you just got to pour more fuel on that fire and just push it more and more and more. Because a lot of the thing with, I think, business and our game is it moves at a very fast pace. So something, a lot of things now is a trend. So something might be trendy now, but it might not be in a year's time. So capture the trend whilst it's there, and really get stuck into it. You want to eliminate all other opportunities, and this is a big one because it's easy. It's easy to get wrapped up in so many business ideas, and I've definitely done this. But the compound effect of focusing on one thing, especially when you're starting your business out, is huge. So this is why I set the franchise up in a way that we take care of the operational side for everybody, because I know that the ops is the biggest killer for time and focus for acquisitions. And I've seen it time and time again where the entrepreneurs, they get great success. They come, into sort of this domain, and quite quickly they get 5-10 properties once they know how to unlock the deal sourcing side of it, and they're doing loads of viewings. And then all of a sudden they've got to start doing bookkeeping. Then they've got to start dealing with guests. Then they've got to start dealing with cleaners, letting them down. Then before you know it, they're scrubbing toilets themselves and changing beds and all of a sudden they stop acquiring stock, and then all those people that were working with disappear because they've lost contact, and before you know it, you've really ground to a halt. And that is the real compound effect of focus in the short-term rental game. And that's why I kind of want everybody just to be focused on finding deals, because we've already taken care of the back end. I've been through the pain of putting it all together, and it just works that way. So then we can get to that 5,000 target. Everybody builds their businesses up. You're better off having, you're better off having 50 to 60 units and getting them taken after on the back end than you are to have 5 to 10 units dealing with them yourselves. You'll make a hell of a lot more money by getting the volume. This is a volume game that we're in, and you need as many of them as you can get to create more cash flow, because unfortunately only one property can create so much cash flow. Be open to trying new ideas, but make quick decisions if they're not working. I had, for example, I had this idea about 2021, I think it was. I could tell that everybody was struggling with cleaning and linen for short-term rentals. So I thought, well, I've got a linen business that I'm involved with, get wholesale rates. So why don't I package this all up? I can just hire more cleaners. I can give them more work, so they'll be happier, and then we'll offer that out as a service to hosts. It was an absolute disaster. It took away so much focus from my team, from sourcing units, dealing with our own properties, and all they were doing was dealing with cleaners letting other hosts down. And then obviously those hosts were pissed off with us because we were ultimately the focus point. We were the business, we were the contract. We were then dealing with the cleaners. We had all sorts of issues, and we were making very little money out of it. It was like pennies compared to what you can make by just finding another rental arbitrage unit, running it yourself, finding another asset to buy, getting it refurbed, flipping it, that sort of stuff. So there's much more money in those tasks than there was in that. But at the same time, it was an idea. There was an opportunity there. I'd still believe there is an opportunity for somebody in that market to deliver. But for me, it just wasn't for me. And I could see that it was taking time away. So we cut it loose quite quickly. You've got to understand why people will actually buy from you. I think that's really important. And if you don't understand why they're buying from you, you can never leverage it, and you can never do more of it. So the downside is, if they're buying from you because you're the entrepreneur and you're the one that they want to deal with, then that's actually going to become a roadblock, because as you scale your business, you can only offer so much time. And if you cannot remove or replace yourself from the business, then you're always going to have a job, and you're always going to struggle to scale. So luckily for us in our businesses, I do think done correctly, it can be done. Don't get me wrong, I have probably 50 landlords maybe that were kind of the original 50 that I personally dealt with, personally sourced, and did the initial contracts with. And they do get a bit funny if I sort of, when they text me, or I've got another property for you, or your contract's coming up, can we talk about? If I've had to kind of go through the pain of, I appreciate you want to talk to me, but I now have a full team that take care of all that for me, because I'm like doing different things in the business now. And it's that sort of, you don't want to ruin the relationship that you've built up, but at the same time, I can't focus on building the business if I'm dealing with 50 landlords that want my time and attention. So you do have to make sure you're setting the boundaries, and I would try and set them early on as well. But if you make your whole organization friendly, and you make your whole organization, I always like to talk about like we, and even when I'm with at the beginning, we work together, we've got a team, we've got this, we've got that, and then they understand that at some point they will be speaking to the team. The sales process is a very, very simple one. So find someone's pain, find someone's vision, find the gap, and show the commitment for a new reality. So for us, acquiring property, if we're looking at the rental arbitrage strategy, and we talked about this a lot in the last in-person masterclass, is what's their pain? So the magic 8, they've got voids, they've got tenants not paying, they've got tenants trashing houses, they've got a high tenant turnover, they're paying agency fees on a monthly basis, they're paying tenant finders fees, you name it. There's so many different problems that landlords have, and if you talk about that pain. All right, not every landlord is going to have experienced voids, or they might not have experienced at that time a disaster tenant. However, over time, I guarantee you, if you keep beating the same drum with the same problems, you will start to hit landlords that have had those problems recently, because they do. And if they've got a portfolio, then they will. I am personally going through a possession court claim. The guy owes me $7.5 grand. He'll owe me 10 grand by the time we get to court. If I had a rental arbitrage company come to me now and say, have you had any voids with your house? Would you like a guaranteed rent for 5 years? I'd be like, yeah, sign me up. Had I not been involved in short-term rental, because the timing's correct, the timing's perfect. I'm currently experiencing that pain. So these are the things that we have to leverage, and then basically you show them, what's the gap. So the gap is obviously, where you're at now with the pain of the tenant not paying, to what we can create for you. We'll do a 5-year contract. We'll pay you every month. It's, backed by X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. And then, gives them the vision that, like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a much better option for me. I can see I'll be more profitable doing that, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously you just show them that you're ready to go. And I think this is one of the biggest things that helped me get a lot of deals over the line, where I would literally leave a view and stack the deal up in my car, and I was texting them before I even left. Sometimes I hadn't even left the house to lock it up, and I'm texting them saying, I'll give you this for it. I'll give you that for it. And some people might say, oh, you shouldn't say that you're too keen. I call bullshit on that. I think you should show that you are keen as mustard. Show that you're committed. Show that you want it. Show that you're eager and you're hungry. It's not going to cost you any more if you're good at negotiation. And, at the end of the day, people like people that make decisions quickly and just move on, because it shows confidence as well. So always be ready to stack your deals. Obviously, there's a million ways that you can get people, or we can get landlords into our domain, and we can ring them. We can do webinars. I've done that before, where I've held like development webinars, how we work with developers. Got a lot of developers on, try and get blocks of flats, things like that. Obviously, our website, which we've got in person. But you've got to kind of take yourself out of the sales process and build a process around it at some point, if you want to get to that sort of, high leverage, high turnover business. So, for example, now, whilst we're, like, what have I done today? In reality, not very much. I went to the gym. I went to the gym, I went and had breakfast with a friend, then I went to physio, and then I popped in the office for a bit. But, what have I done? Not much, right? But at that same time, and that's not me bragging, that's just to highlight that, I've not done that much today, and I've had a sales force in Dubai who are constantly ringing landlords, they're constantly ringing real estate brokers, they're constantly on the ground viewing stuff, and I've had a sales force in the UK doing exactly the same whilst I've done all that. That means my acquisition side of the business is still moving forward, whether I decide to turn up or not turn up. And that's kind of the point that you've got to get it to. And I'd also encourage you, even at a young stage, if you find that A, you're not very good at it, or B, you haven't got the time to do it because maybe you're at a job, or you're starting to get busy with the ops side of things, you've got to start thinking, okay, what is the cost of hiring somebody and getting them to find me a deal? Like, what's a deal worth? So I personally think a rental arbitrage deal is probably worth someone in the region of £5,000 to £7,000 per year profit. So if you can get an employee, pay them whatever, $2.5 grand a month to find you one deal a month, then you are in a positive ROI situation. You'll need 5 months cash flow to be able to pay for that 5 months cash flow to be able to pay the 2,500, because naturally, if you're going to earn 500 quid a month, it's going to take you 5 months to get the 2.5 grand salary that you paid. But after that 5 months, then that property is now profitable and it's paid for itself, and you've not had to find it. So if you can, I always think a lot of people at the beginning stage, and I'll come on this with the hiring, they think about keeping a pot of money for actual fitting out the deals. What about putting a set of money aside to say, I'm going to hire somebody to find me deals? Not a deal sourcer, somebody that you can have working on the ground for your business day in, day out, and finding new deals. And if you can spin a positive ROI on that, like all my staff, they all give me a positive ROI on the wages that I'm going to pay them in a couple of days' time on payday. I've had an ROI on them either last month or the month before that, as they've been putting deals into the system, into the company that we then benefit from long term. If you think about it even more, the actual a good rental arbitrage deal is typically around 8 years. That's the lifespan of it. So you're paying someone 2.5 grand to find you one deal a month. You're going to earn 5 to 7 grand a year from that for the next 8 years. It's a pretty good ROI on that spend. So it's just something that you can think about. I discovered in 2020 that I needed to get out my own way, and I had to build a team around me if I wanted to get to where I wanted to be. I was very much a control freak, and I wanted to keep everything in house. I wouldn't let go of stuff, but when I realized that I had to let go and start to let go, it changed overnight, and that's when things really started to take off. And you've got to be able to, don't be afraid to give away profit in exchange for having great people around you, because they will make you so much more money. It is an absolute game changer when you've got A-level players around you and they are, at it all day, every day. And yeah, you're paying them, but they will bring you back 10x in return over the lifetime of the value of that client that they probably bring into your business. And I think this is a really important factor is, and a lot of people get this wrong in business, but hopefully if you ask any of my staff, they'll probably echo this. But as the CEO, you work for your team, not the other way around. You've got to support them, you've got to nurture them, and you've got to give them the freedom to surprise you. So you actually work for them, they don't work for you. I actually never use the word that someone works for me. It's always we work together or they work with me. And I think it's really important to use that type of positive language and, show that sort of commitment. But if they need me, like if someone rang me today, even, when I'm, maybe not at my absolute, workaholic mode today, and they needed me to do anything, pick up the phone and ring the landlord. In fact, I have actually done that tonight. So one of them was struggling to get a deal over the line on a multi-unit. So they're like, is there any chance you can speak to the landlord? He rang me about half 5, 6 o'clock, and I spoke to him for half an hour. So, I don't mind going back in the trenches. If they need my support, I'll go in the trenches with them. But they need to know that, they can rely on you for that, and that you do work for them. And I think if you build that mentality, you will get superstars who want to then come to work and actually, move things for you, move mountains for you. This for me is possibly one of the most important points out the whole of this. So you've got to understand what your zone of genius is, and you've also got to understand what your employees' zone of genius is. Now, what I mean by that is you can't do everything in your business. There's also things that you will be terrible at in your business, and there's also things that you'll be great at in your business. And all of us will be different. If we all laid down our top 5, what we think we're good at in the business, they would all differ. Some would be sales, some would be ops, some would be people, some would be, I'm an introvert, so I don't really like people. Everything's different, but everyone has a value in a business. But you cannot do things that you're not good at. It's one of the biggest killers in any business. So I feel like these are my strengths. So in my business, I'm good at keeping money in the bank. I'm good at ideas, concepts, and strategy. I'm good at content creation, partnerships and new channels. I'm good at mediating attention, training and growing both myself and my team, and finding the right fit people. I feel like I'm a good judge of character when it comes to people. That means everything else I shouldn't be doing, especially ops. I hate ops. I really don't like it. I never did from day one. But I get frustrated when I get pulled into ops. I get my mood changes, and I am not as productive, and that's not good for the business, because then you might get a bit ratty with some of the staff. You might end up saying things you don't want to say. You might end up blowing your lid. So you've got to have people, in that role that are, patient, they're understanding, they're, good with their communication when people are screaming at them. I quite frankly just want to tell people to fuck off. That's just the way I am. But I noticed that early doors, and I took myself out of that situation, and I put the right people in the right place for that. And a lot of people, especially when they're building their businesses, they'll try to do everything. And I think, don't get me wrong, at the beginning, you've kind of got to, but you've got to quickly realize that you also don't want your staff doing everything. So I hear, I'm going to get a VA, and the VA is going to do this, and they're going to do that, and they're going to do that, and they're going to do that. And it's like, well, If the VA was that good at doing all that, they'd probably be an entrepreneur and they'd probably have their own business, and a very successful one at that. So, a VA, whilst they might say they've got all these skill sets, they will actually only be good at probably a few of them, and they just bolt the others on to try and win business. So, and it's the same with, I'm going to get my first employee for the business, right? Great. What are they going to do? Well, they're just going to work for me. Yeah, but what they'll call some guests, and they'll also call some landlords, and then also do this. Well, someone calling a landlord to try and acquire something to someone calling the guest to solve a problem, that's two different types of character. One is probably very sales orientated. One is probably very, strategic and a bit more organized and a bit more probably, calmer, and might not be able to actually sell anything. So you've got to think about who you're bringing in and also what you're good at as well. Just because you're the entrepreneur, CEO, whatever title you want to give yourself, it doesn't mean you're great at everything, and you've got to accept what you're not good at, and you've got to find people to fill that part in so you can focus on what you are good at. And by doing that, your businesses will absolutely fly. So as I said there, it doesn't mean you're able to let go of it. I hate doing ops, but I am still very much involved in it, in terms of I get reports daily from my high level management who are running the ops team. I will have certain boundaries in place. So for example, if anything over £1,000 worth of maintenance needs authorizing, it has to come to me. Everybody else in the team has their layer of spend. So it's just like clever little things that you put in place so that you're still involved in it, but without actually doing it. You're just getting the high level overview to make sure everything's going right. In our monthly management meetings, we'll have sort of, our review our review of the reviews. We'll have a look at the, underperforming properties, that sort of stuff. And that's where we'll dig a bit more into the ops, but that's all I need to know. And then we set an action plan, and then I trust the team to be able to go away and deliver on that. And, so far so good, it works. And by giving them the freedom, they really push it and they really scale. So, take a look at where you want to grow. If it's, if you want to do $1 million profit, $1 million turnover, whatever the number is, you need to work out how many customers you need. And in order to get that customers, how many properties do you need, and how many guests do you need to fill those properties? So if we say, okay, on average, a rental arbitrage deal makes, let's just say, argument's sake, 10 grand a year, and you want to achieve £100,000 profit this year, well, you need to find 10 properties. So how do you find those 10 properties? It takes 20 viewings to get one property. So you need to do 200 viewings to get 10 properties. It then takes 5 guests a month to be able to get the revenue to make the 10 grand a month. So you need to be focused on how you're getting your 5 guests a month. Well, you know that you're going to get 3 from Airbnb. You know that you then need to get on the phone and find the other 2 through your direct booking strategies. So how many phone calls do you need to make to get those direct bookings? So you just break it all down into numbers. And then when you know what your numbers are, you just got to go and achieve the numbers. And, as Grant Cardone says, actually 10x your numbers, because your numbers are probably a bit light. So 10x them. So if you think you need to do 200 viewings, do 2,000 viewings. You'll definitely get your 10 properties that'll make you 100 grand. You'll more than likely exceed it, and then you'll move forward. But again, coming back to what does your team need to look like in order to deliver that? So if you know that you can do 100 grand by finding 10 properties by doing 200 viewings, well, you know what the profitability is of that. So why not just get 10 people to do the same job to then get to your £1 million in the same time frame? Because the numbers work, the numbers play out. It's just working out whether you can cash flow the recruitment and cash flow the staff to be able to then pull this off. And that's one of the biggest things that a lot of businesses at the beginning don't focus on. They think, oh, it's me, I've got to save costs, I've got to, make sure I can do it and this and that and the other. But really, all you're doing there is hindering yourself. I did it. I did the first 21 by myself, and I could have gone a hell of a lot quicker had I actually got out my own way and got people to help me at the beginning. But as entrepreneurs, we're a bit like, oh, well, I've got to do everything. And if I'm not doing everything, then I'm not a successful business. Well, for me, a successful business is being able to not work, and actually your business still moves forward. By actually, you're not doing anything. Don't do anything on a daily basis, and you still make more money every month. You've got a successful business, and you've also got a very successful life. So have a look at what your team needs to be. I built my business organically through Facebook. However, organic marketing will only take you so far. We've obviously just launched the new kind of done for you marketing in the portal for the the franchise in the vault. The idea of that is every day you just take a post, you tweak it slightly, whatever the instructions are, you post it on your social media, you're getting your brand out there, you'll start getting engagement, you'll start getting comments, you'll start getting people say, hey, by the way, I've got a property to rent, or hey, by the way, I didn't realize you're in the property game. That's the idea of the organic growth. And you only get that if you get yourself out of obscurity and get yourselves out there. So, but to take me to the next level, you got to pay to play. You'll hear this all the time. You got to be on Google, Facebook, and YouTube ads, and you got to be spending money. And that is a skill set in its own. And in order to do that, I have to leverage a full marketing team. I need to create more content. Again, whilst I was doing very little today, I'm pretty sure I probably had 20 posts go out on social media on my accounts. Not one of them was done by me. I didn't create any of them. They all look like they're from me, but it's got absolutely nothing to do with me. I don't even sign them off these days. I just let them have access to my account and they just post away. But what we do is in a weekly meeting, we look at the engagement of every single post, and then we decide what we're going to do more of, what we're going to do less of, and we'll also come up with some of the creative ideas. Because if you remember a few slides ago, I said one of my zone of geniuses was content creation. So I do quite often come up with ideas, or I'll model success from ideas that I see work. If I'm flicking through TikTok, Instagram, anything, and it catches my eye, I've got a channel in my Slack channel. I ping it into the team. I like this, I like this, I like this, I like this. And they'll then just model it because it worked and it caught my attention. It'll catch someone else's attention. And that's what you've got to kind of be thinking of when you're, not that I advocate scrolling through social media unless it is for research purposes, but you've got to be always thinking about, okay, well, if it's something catching my eye, what is it about it? Can we use it? Can I model it? Can we do something similar? So, but you need a team to create this content. You need a team to come up with great ideas. You haven't got all the answers. They will have the answers. You'll have the answers, and together you've got more answers than just by yourself. But to push the brand to the next level, we've definitely got to go into paid ad space, which we're doing for you. The marketing spend behind the scenes is not just for the benefit of me. It is the benefit for everybody involved in the Luke States franchise, and we're going to do more and more and more of it as we continue to grow more. And but as a collective, we just need to get the brand out there. Same with like the Airbnb stuff that we're doing and the work that we do online, all the branding of the photographs, all the branding of the listings. When someone searches a location, by the time we've got 5,000 units, they're going to see our logo on the images all the time. That naturally they're going to go, who is this company? I must click. I must experience more about them. I must get on their website. So there's so much going on to get the brand out there, but ultimately we kind of need everybody's help to get your own mini brands out there by doing just the stuff that I've done, the stuff that we still do today that I did right at the beginning, which is just getting a volume of content out there every single day across as many channels as possible, understanding what's engaging, what's working, and doing more of it, and just getting it out and out and out. So freelance, at first I worked with freelancers until I brought them all in-house. And they're just as good as everybody. The freelancers on Fiverr, Upwork, things like that, you can get them, and they can get content for you and post content for you. But obviously you're in a good place with us as well. We're constantly trying to put more and more content onto the vault as well. But yeah, create as much leverage as possible. So if it can be leveraged, make sure you can take it off your plate so you can get to number 6, which is obviously not doing any work and having a team do it for you. I got a PA last year, and whilst I'm not saying everyone go and run out today and get a PA, but at some point you definitely do want to get one. And she like literally gives me the freedom to just build my empire but enjoy life. And I can trust her with everything, and she delivers time and time again. But I know that even daft things now, like, can you arrange these restaurants on this holiday, and these are the ones we want to go to? Can you sort out these tickets at the F1 because I've got a few friends coming over? Can you ring these landlords and do this? Can you? So it's not just for business, it's actually for personal stuff as well. But what that allows me to do is spend more time on, right, how do we make this business better? What more content can we come up with? Who do I need to be going speaking to? Going actually speaking to those people, having those meetings, having those dinners, playing those golf games, whatever it might be. That's what it allows you to do. But it kind of all ties back into that sort of zone of genius of getting everything off your plate that you don't need to do, understanding what your time value is, and then getting it off your plate. And that's kind of the message that I want to really get through tonight, because whether you're at the beginning or whether you're starting to build already, the sooner you do this, the better. And I think the biggest thing is most people think, oh, well, it's a cost. It's going to cost me a fortune. I can't afford to pay that. But as long as you manage them properly, as long as you support them, as long as you give them the training, and as long as you nurture them, you will get quite quick results from them. If you can go out and source 2 or 3 properties a month yourself, why can't somebody else with your guidance? It's easy. It's a skill set you can pass on. Why can't they go out and do that? So, if you're paying $2.5 a month for them, you might be able to get them for cheaper, whatever. Then they're going to give you a $7,000 property profit wise for that year. So, yep, you're good. That's a good spend of money. If I came to you now and said, give me $2.5 and I'll give you $7,000, I'm pretty sure you'd give me $2.5. It's the same principle. You just got to make sure you got the right people around you. What type of life do you want? Again, this will be different for every single one of you on here, and you either have to suffer profit margin for a speedy growth, or you keep more profit for a slower growth. So it depends where you want to go. And if you want fast growth but more free time, you're going to have to pay for it, a bit like what I'm talking about now. You're going to have to get staff around you. You're going to have to get other people to be doing stuff for you whilst you're maybe not doing stuff. If you want fast growth but a higher profit margin, you're going to have to do more. So rather than, you doing 5-10 viewings a week and somebody else doing 5-10, you might have to do all 20 and then you're not paying somebody else to do it. But obviously you're going to have to expend a lot more time. So that's kind of high level, sort of the planning side of things, how you should be looking at your business now and going forward, whether you're solopreneur or whether you're starting to build your team out slowly or even quickly. That's how you should be doing it. And that's where I want you to all get to ASAP, is get yourself in these positions, get these people around you, start thinking about the tasks and the profit lines that you want to go after, and then just focus on them. But in order to grow any business 10x, you don't actually need to put in 10x of the work. You just got to do it in a much smarter way. And, again, figure out which piece you're weak on. So typically businesses fall into these 4 segments, or 5 if you want to count sales and ops. So marketing, sales, operations, finance, and management. And then basically you want to hire your number 2. So you want to basically work out which one of these you're good at. And because not everybody is good at everything. I've already demonstrated that I'm no good at operations. I'm good at systems and processes. I'm just not very good at speaking to screaming customers, or people that can't work a 4-digit lockbox code, because it just doesn't compute with me how someone can't put 4 digits in a lockbox code and pull a black lever down. But other people are. So, you're either good at a few or not. So, for example, if you're good at marketing and sales and you've got no one for ops or finance, you're going to get yourself into a hot mess, because all you're going to do is secure a load of properties. You're not going to be able to fulfill them on the back end. You'll end up losing the clients. You'll end up getting bad reviews. You'll end up with, your properties underperforming. Then you'll not be able to pay your bills. Similarly, if you're great at operations, you can deliver on the back end, but you're not very good at acquiring properties, then you're going to have no properties to put customers into. So you've got to make sure you've got it all figured out. And, I've been through all of this where we've grown too quick and the ops side wasn't ready for it and we've let people down. Similarly, I've then boosted the ops side up and we haven't really had enough properties to pay the wages. So you're kind of always this teeter top of the pattern of trying to figure out what the balance is. But I am a firm believer that you want to figure out what your zone of genius is and just get again. Like I personally think I tick 4 out of these 5 boxes here. But even though I do, I can't. So for me, I think marketing and sales is a very strong point of mine, and finance and management is another strong point. But I can't do all 4 of them without blowing up. I've done it before, and it's not pretty. I I have several high-level managers in certain roles. Don't necessarily have a number two as such. I just have certain high-level managers in pretty much all of these departments, and I then work with them, and then they work with the team below them, and everything's bubbling away with new ideas and all that sort of stuff, whilst guests are getting checked in and out, and the business is moving forward. But it took me a while to really grasp this whole concept of letting other people into your business, letting them control your business. I never used to want to give my accountants my like bank details. I didn't want them to look at the bank accounts. It's like, how are they going to do the job if they're not looking into the bank? It's like, but it was just this whole control factor, you know, that I didn't want people to see things. And but then the more you release, the more that they want to work for you, and the more that they will, you know, really prove you wrong, and get you out of a situation that, you know, you can you know, get you out of a situation that you don't want to be working. Like, the idea of, I would imagine most of you, if not all of you, is to give you freedom. This whole property business is for freedom, you know, that it is a great product because it recurs, the revenue recurs every single month, and we don't have to do much more. We've just got to find the initial stock, and then as we build it, we get more and more cash flow, and that comes in every single month, give or take a few fluctuations. You know, we've got to be able to release ourselves from the business. Plan and implement marketing funnels that can turn strangers into customers. So, as I said before, I do think we're marketeers as business owners. I think if you've got a marketeer brain, if you invest in marketing education, if you are like follow Gary V, just follow Gary V on TikTok, watch his TikTok videos. Like, he is an absolute genius at marketing. Like, just watch, listen to him, and he will give you all the trending patterns. He'll tell you where things are going. He spotted TikTok 3-4 years ago. You know, now it's like one of the biggest social media, if not about to be the biggest social media platform. So it's like you've got to be on your game with marketing, because that's where you get the customers. So you know, the first part of any business cycle is marketing. You've got to get somebody to reach out to you and say, hey, I'm interested, tell me more. Or, you know, even just like your post, or put a comment on one of your posts. They're engaging, they're interested. I say it all the time to the sales boys in the team, like, because they sometimes get a bit frustrated if they don't get deals over the line straight away. They might have calls with people, and I always say, listen, everybody buys eventually. It's just a matter of when. Like, everybody will come into our world eventually. It's just a matter of when. And it could be straight away, it could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years. But everybody will come into our world eventually, because what we do is we've got various services that solve pretty much every problem within the short-term rental space. Like, we get quite often, we'll get people who, you know, maybe they want to get educated, but they don't want the help. So they'll take one of the, you know, they'll come on a free webinar, but then they won't pay for the education. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But then they go out on their own, and then they hit the roadblocks, then they hit the pain points, then they have to deal with the guests, and then they start losing money. And all of a sudden they come knocking back on the door and say, hey, is there any chance we can do some one-to-one stuff? You know, it always happens that way, because I know what the pain points are. So people always come back in. So guests, landlords, and again, landlords, like, so, you know, with your landlords that you're speaking to now, you should be, even if you don't get the deal, put their number in your calendar 5 months from now to give them a call. Put descriptions in. Met this landlord at this property. Put something that reminds you of the property, something that reminds you of the conversation. And in 5 months, that's going to ping on your calendar and say, right, you need to ring Jimmy today from this property here. So you ring Jimmy, say, hey, Jimmy, I met you 5 months ago, but you obviously decided to go with a different tenant. Just wondering how that tenant's working out for you. Oh, well, actually, the tenant hasn't paid any rent for the last 4 months, so I'm going through an eviction process. Right, great. Well, do you want to revisit my services with you? Because, you know, we don't offer you any voids. We can look after your properties for the next 8 years. We do the maintenance, and you just go back in. If every viewing you go on, if you're going on 10 to 20 viewings a week and you're only converting 1 or 2, well, let's just assume you're going on 10. Those 8 opportunities, the majority of the people do nothing with them. they just chuck them in the bin and they'll never probably ever speak to those people again. If you diary calls for all 8 of those people for 5 months, 6 months down the line, which is when the fixed term tenancy will end, then you're going to end up like with a bank of people to ring that you've already built a bit of a relationship with. And as I say, they will always buy as long as we're always speaking to them, as long as we're always communicating with them. So we've got in our marketing, we tag people every time they come on, either through a certain funnel or a certain, like we might have a guest who comes on the website, they might download something, we'll tag them, they then do this, we'll tag them, da, 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 da. We end up, I quite often look at, okay, let's look at someone's profile. I'm pretty sure I could look at all your profiles in my marketing campaign, and you will have downloaded at least 4 or 5 of my free PDFs. You'll have probably attended a few free webinars. You might have paid for one of the masterclasses in the past, and now you're all here because it's a marketing funnel, and we've kept getting in touch with you. We've kept that relationship going. We've built that trust with you over the years. So that's all we need to do constantly. And that's why we've got to get on our marketing game to be able to get your businesses out of obscurity, get the guest flow in, get the landlord flow in, get the deals in. And the more of that you do, the more you will scale. There's no way in the world you're going to get loads of deals by just ringing estate agents. It's not going to happen. You'll get some deals, but you're not going to get loads, and you definitely won't get the best deals. The best deals are from people that come to you rather than you go to them, especially in times like now where the rental market's crazy. You need some repeatable format for scaling your business. So you need to, if you know a property management lead costs you 35 quid and you need 10 leads to close a contract, then effectively your cost per acquisition is 350 quid. If the lifetime value of your client's greater than 350 quid, and it will be, so this is a property management lead, for example, then you've got a marketing funnel that you can pour cash into. So for example, if we say, okay, well, it costs us 350 quid to get a management client, but a management client's lifetime cycle is worth 5 grand. Well, just pour money into it because you've got an absolute winning marketing campaign there. But you need to understand how to, market these adverts, how to put these adverts out. There's plenty of training within the program about setting up Facebook ads and Google ads and things like that. But again, if it was me starting all over again, I'd just pay an expert to do it, but not a marketing agency because they just rip you off. Pay an expert and say, this is what we want to do. This is the leads that we want. But then at the same time, you want to make sure you've got the fulfillment to act on the leads. The last thing you want is a load of leads coming through. You're at work, you forget about them, no one's picking them up, and then they're just wasted money. You want to make sure that you've got a sales team behind the scenes to be able to action the leads. But the idea is that you want to be able to get to a point where you can repeat, you can drive business through the doors with spending money, by paying for them. So again, landlord campaigns, rent guarantee campaigns, again, probably costs about 27, 28 pounds to get a lead through from a landlord. But the thing with the landlord leads is not all of them might have properties ready to go. There might just be landlords interested. And a lot of people then don't nurture that lead. And this is whether you're going on a viewing with an estate agent, a landlord, it doesn't matter. You want to be nurturing the lead for months and months and months and months and months. Just constantly checking in with them. Hey, have you bought any new property recently? Hey, have you got any friends that are renting out? Do you speak to any other landlords that might need our services? How's that tenant working out for you? Just constantly asking good questions so that you can go repitch your services. And over time, you'll start to end up with just an absolute pipeline of deals coming through because no one else is doing this. Everybody else goes on a viewing, they get a no, they move on to the next viewing. Go on a viewing, get a no, move on to the next viewing because they don't want to put in the consistent effort to be able to try and nurture the leads through the funnel. So, the only thing that you got to do is you got to make sure you can deliver the onboarding and the upside, or you'll lose clients as quickly as you can obtain them. So the last thing you want to do is pour loads of money into leads and not be able to ring them, or get clients on board, get guests on board and not be able to deliver a good service, or get landlords on board and not be able to pay them the rent and live up to what you said. So you've just got to make sure that you can tick all the boxes before you start, really wanting to push heavy on the scaling side of things. This one is really important, and I think it's definitely, all the communities that I've built has definitely served all areas of the business. So, whilst I guess the initial idea of building my communities was probably to go down the kind of mentoring and coaching side, which I don't do anymore now. It has definitely had its spin-off effects. We've picked up a lot of management clients from it. We've picked up a lot of rental arbitrage deals from it. Obviously we picked up franchisees from it. So it all has its benefits. So what I would encourage you all to do is start thinking about what type of communities or audiences could you build. So whether that's a Facebook group, whether it's a LinkedIn group, whether it's a meetup, it doesn't really matter. Just really have a think about how you could pull this off and how you can, start building that community again. And this is the problem with a lot of people, is it's very easy to do, yet it's very difficult to pull off. What I mean by that is, I guarantee you could all probably come up with a great Facebook community idea tonight and start a group. But are you committed enough to grow that group every day for the next 3 to 4 years to get it to say 5,000 or 6,000 members? Because that's what it takes. And at the beginning, you're not going to get much engagement from it. At the beginning, you're not going to get pretty much anything from it. But it's the commitment every single day to grow these communities. If you're going to set up a regular monthly meetup for landlords in your area, for example, are you committed to showing up every month, even if there's only a couple of people show up once a week, once a month, and things like that? So that's business. The business is actually very easy to do. It's hard to stay committed and disciplined to show up every day to get the results. And again, I think in the quarterly masterclass we had last time, we talked about the small steps you need to take to get big leaps. And it's all about, just doing the small things daily that actually gets the big results, but it's actually committing to doing it daily. So have a think about, you've got to build a business that has a community. Every single lead coming through the door should have the chance to become both a customer and part of your community. So we've got obviously, like say the franchise network, you can become, a franchisee, but if not, you can just go and join, my service accommodation community group. We put loads of content in there. There's every now and then we do some interviews and things like that, and it's all just that. So but by doing this, you're future proofing yourself, you're getting your business out there, you're getting your name out there, and the spin-off effects of it is huge. But you've again just got to be committed to doing it and building these groups, because again, it's all about trust, and it's the trust factor why people engage. You're all here because you trust me and my business. You want to be involved in it because you trust that we know what we're doing, we know we're going to support you, and that we're going to get you to where you want to go. And I trust you, and that's why you're with me, to share my vision and want to build this brand worldwide, and buy into the fact that we don't want rogue operators. And that's why you're with me, and that's why I'm with you, because of the trust factor. And that's what building communities do. It builds that trust, and it really helps push that boat a bit further. If I was you, I would be building things like some form of landlord group that probably you'd probably want to niche down on something quite specific that is a bit of a pain point. If you search some of the landlord groups, just scroll through them, you'll start to see them whinging about certain topics. So let's just say, for argument's sake, it's I don't know, probably something along the lines of like the government. So a landlord group for, I don't know what, whatever, a government backlash landlord group or something like that. I guarantee you get loads of people signed up. But over time, you've got to add people, you've got to invite people, you've got to be pitching it out, you've got to be doing this, that, and the other. And then in that group, you can start dropping things in, like, articles about, Section 21's getting abolished, articles on how you've now got to rent the pets, whether you like it or not. We know the damage pets make to houses. We know the damage, the possession claim order now, it's absolutely ridiculous. It takes far too long. You end up blowing fortune. However, because you're that leading face of that group, over time, you then pop up and say, hey, but by the way, we've got this amazing service where we give you 5 years rent guarantee, and you don't have to bother with all that. They already have that trust with you. So they can then go, hey, I tell you what, let's shoot them a DM, or let's comment on the post, or let's go to the link that they've said. And over time, you'll start to build your business. Over time, you'll start to get more and more properties through your cycle. So that, I mean, that's just one literal spin-off idea off the top of my head that I've made up in the last 5 minutes. But if someone takes that on, someone stays committed to that for the next 3 to 4 years, I guarantee you'll have one of the biggest communities that's fighting against the government and all their rubbish rules, loads of landlords in there, which is the perfect audience for what you're wanting to do to get more and more properties from them. But the problem is most people don't want to stay committed to doing that. They won't do it. And that's why 99% of people don't make it. So put out valuable content, have no expectations of anything coming back. And then you will eventually get people raise their hands when they're good and ready, saying, you know what, I really like your content, I'm ready to come on board, I'd like to know more, can you tell me more about this? And that is where you build your businesses. You're not going to build your businesses just ringing estate agents. All you'll do ringing estate agents is demotivate yourself, demotivate your staff, and you'll not really have a future-proof business. You've got to build your business on your own foundation. Be a big fish in a small pond. So kind of coming back to what I was just saying there, like be specific in what you want. Don't become like a community for everybody. Don't become someone. I tried this, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to be Mr. Property. I do HMOs, I do BRR, I do this, I do that, blah, blah, blah. I didn't really get anywhere with it until I really focused on, well, do you know what? I actually really have a passion for short-term rentals, and I'm starting to do a lot more of that now, and I seem to be okay at it. So I'm just going to focus on that. And when I'm really focused on just doing short-term rentals, I got so much more traction. So get specific with what you want. You know, and this comes down to the type of properties you might want to host, the type of landlords you want to work with, the type of markets you want to go into. It doesn't matter. Just be specific with who you want to be and what you want to get across, and you will get huge results from it. Hire the right people at the right time. So we kind of touched on this, but I think a lot of businesses hire too late. So what they do is they wait until they've got all these problems that they're juggling, then they'll hire somebody. That leads to probably hiring the wrong person, because you'll pretty much should take anybody that walks through the door, because you're so stressed that you just want to get the tasks off your plate. So you'll be like, oh, you can, yeah, I'll take you on. It'll relieve some pressure from me. What we do, so every month we have a management meeting, and with all my managers in all locations, and we basically say, right, where do we want to be? So we analyze where we've gone last month, what we've acquired, how we've moved forward, how things are going, blah, blah, blah. Then we're like, right, 12 months from now, where do we want to be? 12 months, so like 11 months, i.e. the previous meeting, this is where we want to be. Have we moved this forward? Yeah, we've moved forward, so this is where we're going to be. Right, do we have the systems, processes, and staff to get there? And if the answer's no, then we say, right, why not? What haven't we got? Well, we're going to need 5 more property hosts. We're going to need more technology here. We're going to need this. Right, fine, let's get it now. If we get it now, it's going to mean that we can scale to that point. If we don't get it now, then we'll not be able to scale to that point. So all we'll be doing is firefighting, and we'll probably drop the ball. We'll probably let people down. We'll get some bad reviews. We'll probably lose a few clients because we haven't managed them properly. Let's get the staff now for what we need 12 months from now. And that tip came from a mentoring session that I had with, I can't tell you who it is, but he sold the biggest holiday homes company in the UK. He built it up to 5,000 units before he sold it. So that is exactly what he told me, and that was an absolute game changer for me about 2 years ago. And that's exactly what we've done since, and that's helped us scale even more, because we've always got, or we always feel like we've got the staff well ahead of time. And that also helps us catch up, because then I like drive the salespeople and be like, right, come on, we've got staff here doing nothing. Let's get some more units for them. So always be thinking 12 months ahead if you can with your hires. It also takes about 10 weeks to find the right person, recruit them, find them, train them, and you know, it can take time. So invest in relationships and knowledge. Invest heavily in relationships and knowledge. Expect nothing in return, and you'll get a lot in return. This is so true. And the more I feel like I just give stuff out or just do things for the sake. I always used to think like, oh, well, I need a return on that if I'm giving that out. But now I'm just like, yeah, fine, you can have the value, and I know it comes back. I recently did a webinar and I forgot to record it, and I put an email out saying, oh, I forgot to record this, so I'm gonna have to do another one, because I said I'd get you the replay. And someone emailed me back and said, I recorded your screen. If you give me XYZ, I'll give you the replay. So I was a bit like, well, I actually need the replay, because I promised people, and I can't be asked to sit through another 2 hours of doing it myself. So I agreed to it. But for me, that was like the wrong way to do it. Had he just given me the replay, I probably would have given him, I don't know, a few free mentoring sessions, probably access to some of all the content, whatever. I'd have given him a thank you, because that's the type of person that I am. But that was totally the wrong mindset. But that reminded me that that person, unless they change their mindset, will always stay very small, because they're always looking for something in return for giving something out. Whereas if you just give stuff out with no expectation of anything in return, you'll end up getting far more back in return. And that is like one of the biggest mindset shifts that anybody, I think, in business can have. So the invisible ROI is where you should invest a lot of time and money. So what I mean by that is basically travel in higher classes, whether you can afford it or not. Travel in higher classes. You know, every single flight I go on now, I meet somebody that has got a very large business. I make an effort to try and talk to everybody on the plane. You know, I make an effort to talk to them in the lounges, because these type of people traveling in those classes are typically wealthy people. I've picked up investors from plane journeys. I've picked up properties from plane journeys. We've picked up management contracts by traveling in the right classes. Okay, so it might cost you a bit more money, but just think about the people that's going to be in those classes versus sitting in economy. Well, this goes to trains, it goes to planes, anything. Okay, anything VIP that you can do, you're naturally going to be in a better pool of people. So attend more expensive gyms. You know, if you're paying 20 quid a month for your local gym versus maybe a 250 quid a month gym, where do you think you're going to meet the better people? Where do you think you're going to have better conversations that might be better linked to, you know, your success? As a little hint there, most successful people stay very fit. They're obsessed with fitness and health. If you look at a lot of successful people, they're very much into fitness and health, looking after themselves. That means they're going to be in the right places, and they like to hang around in the most expensive places. Pay for network meetings. Free network meetings are a waste of time. Absolute waste of time. You know, you've probably all been to your PIN networks and your free whatever progressive networks and all that sort of stuff. It's just full of lower level players who are all getting started and don't really have much to offer. They've definitely got very little fun. Go and play at some of your network meetings in your local areas, where you might pay $2,000 a year to be a member. You might pay 500 quid a session. You will find bigger and better people there that are there to actually give value with nothing in return, and they will give you value with nothing in return as well. So that is an absolute game changer for your networking. Get involved in high level masterminds. Doesn't just have to be property ones. It can be, you know, I've done marketing ones, I've done sales ones, I've done business related ones. I'm not actually sure I've done a property one, to be fair, but get involved in them. It's not about the content. It's about the people that are in those networks. When I went to Barcelona for the Scale Rental show in, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, basically the minimum requirement was you had to have 50 properties. There was 300 people there. Between us, we had something like 35,000 units. Can you imagine the conversations that went on for 3 days? You know, it was like, for me, I was like, I came away from that, I was like, I've learned so much from that event. And, you know, I think I'm a player, but I'm not really compared to some of them. But just the way they're doing things, the way that, was anybody there going, oh, I'm keeping all my secrets to myself? No, because they're all the right mindset of just give away. We're successful here. Just give it out. Let's share and let's make each other's businesses better. Whereas, you know, you can go to some of the lower ones, like, oh, I'm only going to give you that secret if you pay an extra $2,000, or I'm only going to do that if you pay an extra $5,000. You know, it's like, it's just different types of people. And that's the type of people that you want to be trying to get around. There's plenty of things online. And again, pay around to be people who are further ahead than you. Travel to them, take them out for meals, take them out for drinks. You know, like it pays to play in this game. And you don't have to, you don't have to be booking one-to-one sessions. You don't have to be doing this. I've got a really good friend who I've become Chris from iProc, very good friend of mine. He has been 20 odd years in this game. He's got 250 villas down in Cannes. He's got one of the best hospitality businesses I've ever seen, front end and back end. Like, I'm trying to arrange a trip to go and see him in the south of France. We'll play some golf. We'll go out for some nice meals. Probably cost me whatever. It doesn't matter what it costs me. I know spending 2-3 days with him is far valuable than whatever it's going to cost me to go and do all that, because his knowledge, just seeing his operation in full flow, and I talk to him weekly on the phone, but it's not saying spending 2-3 days with him, and that's the type of thing that you should be doing, whenever you, get the opportunity to maybe spend time with people who are so much further ahead, been there, done it, whatever it costs you, just do it, because the ROI on it, it'll be huge, like absolutely huge. Get a guide up the mountain. So, everybody has key people in their life, and same for me, same for you. You need mentors, you need coaches, whether it's, free YouTube videos, educating yourself, or, actual one-to-one mentorships that cost you, 100K plus a year. I was looking at one last year that was £500,000. I didn't go ahead with it in the end. The guy didn't have the space that year. But I knew that if I was paying £500,000, he would get me more than £500,000 back, because he wouldn't have a business otherwise. So it's like, pay to be around people, and also pay for the right education and the right momentum in life. I think I see it time and time again where people have come on to previous mentorships that I used to run, and they like get a few units and think they've cracked it, and then they'd be like trying to worm out the mentorship, and it's like, well, you're now just at one stage further forward. You've got a million other problems that are going to come. So what are you going to do then? And sure enough, they end up going backwards because they haven't got the support network. You can also, you don't have to be spending fortunes either. You can, if you can solve a problem in 4 to 8 weeks doing it yourself, you can probably go and find someone on Fiverr who can solve it straight away within 24, 48 hours. Just pay for it, get it done, get the problem solved, get the content created, whatever it is that you're looking to do. You've got to start valuing time versus money, and time you can never get back. And the quicker you can do stuff, the faster you'll grow. So always be thinking of money as an investment. So whenever you're looking to purchase something, whenever you're looking to get involved in something, look at it as an investment. So it's not like, oh, well, that business class flight's $4,000. It's like, that business class flight's $4,000. I can potentially get, I don't know, 250K's worth of investment out of it if I play the game whilst I'm on the plane, if I play the game whilst I'm in the lounge. And that means you've got to turn your personal head on, turn your sales head on, and you've got to go and start talking to people. What do you do? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Before you know it, let's have your number. Do you want to meet for a coffee or a beer next week? Blah, blah, blah. You meet up. It's like, that's all you got to do is just open those conversations. I'm a big believer that every single morning you should go and buy a coffee and you should say hi to somebody in the coffee shop. You just never know where that conversation might go. It also teaches you just to get out of your comfort zone and just say hi to people. Because in the UK, we don't do it, especially in London. It's like, fucking hell, don't speak to anyone down here. So, up north, it's a bit easier, but, you've got to get comfortable with speaking to people and just having conversations, learning how to open conversations, ask good questions, listen to people, ask questions so they talk, not you like, what do you do? Oh, I'm XYZ, blah, 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 blah. I always try and turn the conversation. I'm in the property game. What do you do? Just quickly, I could rant all day about what I do, but that's not going to serve my purpose. I need to know what they do. I need to know if there's any value I can add to their life, not what I can get out of them, if there's any value I can add to their life. Because if I add value to their life, I guarantee you they'll give me something back eventually. And that's, whether it's them directly or it's like, hey, my brother's got a few properties to rent, or so-and-so's got some money in the bank. You just never know. But if you start opening conversations with the right people, then things start to happen. And that's one of the things that a lot of people just don't do. I mentioned this before, but double down on what works. So if something's working for you, if you're say scaling very quickly, you seem to be able to find deals very quickly, do more of it. Whatever you're doing, do more of it. Don't worry about the funds. You can potentially go and find the funds, or you can maybe joint venture with people or whatever. Don't worry about it. Just do more of what you're doing, what's working. Never ever stop. I got off the deal acquisition train. I acquired 21 properties in 7 months. The first 7 months I did 21 units and I stopped. And then it took me a while to get going again and get that train going again. I should have doubled down. I should have got 5 staff around me, trained them all what I was doing and got them out doing the same. And we'd have probably acquired 200 properties within the next 6 months rather than just 40. So like, although those numbers are still good, I still feel like I could have done a lot better, knowing what I know now. So don't delay making decisions, innovate and iterate quickly. So every single time you do something, I mentioned this earlier, make a decision. So you've got to be able to understand how to analyze stuff quickly, and you've got to be able to make a decision. The difference between entrepreneurs and people with jobs is typically that the entrepreneurs will make a decision quickly and take risks. The people with the jobs will dilly-dally. They'll probably be risk averse. They will struggle to make decisions on their own. They'll look for security in something else, and then they'll probably start to talk themselves out of it because they're very good at doing that based on all the fears that come in. There's 2 levels of data that you need. One is data, 2 levels of feedback. One's data. So, when using, like you've all got the tools in Kajabi, when you're looking at a unit, jump onto AirDNA, look at the data, see what the average revenue is. Take, it is pretty accurate, but I always like to just chip it down a bit. Does it work at 20% less? Does it work at 40% less? Have a look at the data. Use the old school method that's in Kajabi that I used to use before I used their DNA of, having a look at Airbnb, having a look at what's around, seeing where the hotels are, blah, 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 blah. Right, you've got the data. Okay, you know what your average rate's going to be. You know what your occupancy is going to be. You know what your annual revenue is going to be. You know what the rent's going to be. Are you going to do it? Yes or no? It's a simple question. You've got the data. Are you going to do it? Yes or no? The only other thing is your gut. So data is telling you, yep, this is great. The property works. It's absolutely amazing. But then when you walked around it, you just got this gut feeling that the area didn't feel great. You felt like it was a bit insecure. You're not sure if the guests would like the fact that there's a couple of smashed windows next door. Something's just putting you off. Trust your gut just as much as the data. A gut feeling has definitely got me probably a lot further than data. It's also got me probably in hot water when I probably should have trusted the data. But at the same time, you kind of combine the 2 together, and you will make good decisions, but you've got to make them quickly. Things move so quick in this game. I think we, Mitch found, I think it was 6 deals the other day in Dubai, put them into the group. I think we basically 3 people came back and said they'd have all 6, and and they were gone. Just gone, and then people are like, oh, can I have the deals? Like, they're gone, so you've got to move quick on them, and it's the same anywhere. The market's hot now. You've got to move quick. Pay attention and dive into the deep end. This is really important, and every 30 days write down exactly where you are and all the risks and things that are going on right and wrong right now. So you don't need to spend too much time on this, but it's a good exercise to run. Just look at where you're at. Look at what you can eliminate in the next 30 days. So, it might be, haven't been on many viewings because I got stuck in ops. Okay, well, you know what the problem is there. You know how to eliminate it. You need to get somebody in to help you. Where's the blind spots? Share with your team. Make sure they're working and moving towards these as well. So this is kind of stuff that we go through in our monthly management meeting. What's working, what's not working. What do we need to fix? What do we need? What support do we need? What more staff do we need, etc. Again, it's important that you believe in yourself. So, you do have to be confident, but, don't be arrogant. Just know that you're doing good stuff, but also know that so is everyone else. And there's always someone else bigger and better than you. And I think you just got to respect that. I hate it when I go to these conferences in Barcelona and people are like, oh, I've got like 3,000 units. And I'm like, oh, why haven't I got 3,000 units? But then that's just the competitiveness in me. And an old me would have probably got really envious and angry about that, but now I'm just like, what, fair play to you. I know how hard you must have worked to get those units in that time frame, but just be knowing that I'm coming after you because that's exactly where I want to be. But it's done in a very sort of tongue-in-cheek jest way, but at the same time there's a bit behind it. So know where you're at, and I think you'll have all seen them online. There's a lot of people who blow their own trumpets and just push it out there without really respecting what everyone else has done, and I just think that's a really bad trait to have. So Mitigate your risk even. So don't rely on one source of lead generation. I mean, our game is the absolute pinnacle of this with kind of Airbnb. People just literally putting their properties on there, not working on their direct booking game, not using other channels and just like relying on one business to generate that business. That's not a business. Like, they've got no foundation. It is I am spending hundreds of thousands at the minute on getting our game for Luke Stays to a point where we can turn Airbnb off and we can turn booking.com off. That is my ultimate goal. I want to get us to at least a 75 to 80% direct booking game. And when I've done that, that's when I'll hang my boots up and say I've cracked it, because that is, for me, that means we've got a business. Talk about Chris before from Cannes. He's not on any booking channels. He rents 250 villas from his website. He is not on any booking channels, never used them, never has, never will, doesn't need them, and that's kind of since sort of getting together with Chris, it's all about 2 years ago now. That's kind of been my focus point after speaking with him. And I've been working hard on the SEO stuff, and we're definitely starting to see some good traction on it. And we've had some good bookings this month from it as well, and it's starting to take time. But it takes time, that sort of stuff. It does take time to get that going. So, but that's what we're working on behind the scenes, and we will get there, and that's got to be one of the goals. But same for your marketing. Don't just use Facebook, don't just use YouTube. I recently had my Instagram account shut down. Woke up one morning and it was just like, your account's been removed. I was like, all right, cheers. 25,000 plus followers. I had about 4,000 posts on there. Can't get it back. Tried for 4 or 5 weeks. Marketing team's been trying to speak to everybody. Can't get it back. No rhyme or reason, just gone. So I've lost all those connections. I've lost all those messages. I've lost all the engagement. I've lost all the followers, and that's just another example of don't build your business on other people's, foundations. You've got to be building your own basis. And for us, the biggest thing you can do is get somebody's email address. So every time you go on a viewing with a landlord, get their email address and phone number. Every time you speak to an estate agent, get their email and phone number. Every time you get a potential guest lead, get their email and phone number. Stick it in a database, tag it up correctly so you know who it is. You've then got the ability to market to them for the rest of your life, unless obviously the GDPR you out. But at the same time, you've got the ability to send them engaging content that might work. For me, hosts that rely on Airbnb, they're screwed long term, because their owners, Airbnb's commissions are going to go to 30%. I can guarantee you that over the next probably 2 to 3 years, because more and more businesses are getting more and more reliant on them to drive them bookings. So they're only going to start increasing their commissions. They've got this stupid air covering thing now. Like, we've had so many bookings since that's gone into play where guests have been fully refunded even though they've stayed in the property, because they get 72 hours to complain. They can stay for 72 hours, complain about something, and get a full refund. No questions asked. It's hurting the hosts, and they don't give a shit. So this is why I spotted this, a couple of years ago. It was pretty much when COVID happened. You saw what they did then. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. So that's why I've been pumping money into SEO, building the marketing team out. We're about to engage on, we've been working on a new website behind the scenes for the Luke Stays brand, which is going to be a lot slicker, easier to book. It's going to have more dynamic ability to it, and it's going to have the ability to grow better way to organize the photographs. Basically, development of that's tens of thousands, but I know fine well that it's going to put us into the position that we need to be long term to be able to come away from your likes of Airbnb, booking.com, etc. And at the end of the day, we make our own rules up. It's our contract. You either stay or you don't stay, and these are the terms and conditions. It's not Airbnb's terms, it's mine. It's ours. If you want to stay with Luke Stays, this is what you got to stay under. So that's where we're going, and we will get there, but it takes time. So in the meantime, we obviously feed off them, and we try and do what we do with them just to keep things ticking. And eventually we'll get to that direct booking game. Mitigate your risk of revenue. So you should have a couple of different sources of revenue, and you want to be in a position where if something doesn't work out, that you're not going to be screwed. It's really important that you do have other revenue streams coming in. Now, I guess this is where I kind of went into buy, let's say, Chimos and STR, because that was kind of 3 different revenue streams. I felt like all of them wouldn't go at the same time. Obviously, short-term rental went, and I probably put a few of those properties into tenant properties, which are now reclaimed back when COVID happened. But it doesn't necessarily mean like go and find a total different revenue stream or go and dump your money into crypto. It just means, you know, within the property space, you might be able to create a couple of revenue streams just to until you get really going. The average millionaire has 7 revenue streams. However, remember number 4, you don't want to chase revenue streams that are not profitable and are going to take up loads of your time. So make sure that if you're, you know, working towards your 7 revenue streams, then you know, they are profitable. They all can work with focus. They're not going to take up too much time, and you know that they've got longevity basically. For me, and I think Warren Buffett actually said this, if you can find a business that makes money whilst you sleep, you should be investing as much time and money into that as you possibly can. Property is a business that makes money when you sleep. Short-term rentals, once you've got yourself leveraged out of it, is a business that makes money whilst you sleep. If you don't leverage yourself out of it, you're going to be taking phone calls at 2 a.m. for customers that can't work a 4-digit lockbox code. And that's not what you want to be doing. So, but yeah, in the main, property is a great game. That's why so many millionaires, billionaires invest in it, because it works. It makes money whilst you sleep. So when you're thinking about all the different channels that you can maybe make money from, you want one that can make money whilst you sleep. Do a profit IPO. So what I mean by this, when you're growing, you're going to need 3 to 4 months of cash flow quite quickly every now and then. So I'm pretty sure all of you have been through this, and if you haven't, you will experience it. You'll find all of a sudden you've got 5-10 deals. Landlord said yes. You're like, shit, where am I going to get the money for furniture, all that? Where am I going to get the money for all the deposits? Where am I going to get the money for all that? You know, you might need to raise some money quickly. And that's what I kind of say with a profit IPO. You can do this in a few ways. You can either launch a product or service to get some money in. Probably not that relevant what we do, but you could do a partner launch. So you could, you know, give a percentage away of the business, or say out of those 10 properties, you could say, listen, I'll give you X amount if you give me this amount of money. You know, you would just want to try and raise money quickly. You could trade some time for money. So, you know, you could get out on the network and scene and raise funds. So you might think, do you know what, I've got these 10 units. I need to find whatever, 100, 200K, whatever it might be, 20K, 40K, whatever. It doesn't matter. I need to go on this network event, that network event. I've got to get out there. I've got to pimp myself out there. I've got open conversations. I need to jump on a world round trip of, you know, business class flights and go and speak to everybody in the lounges. But and then you find your money. But the idea is that every now and then you're going to have to do this. Don't just think that everything goes swimmingly, you know, with cash flow. You're going to have to sometimes just get an injection somewhere. You know, I used to do it. I'll be honest. I used to do it through my mentoring. So, you know, if I felt like I was running out of cash and we had a lot going on, I'd be like, do you know what, we need to really hammer down on the mentorships, because that was, you know, money in the bank, and then I'd use that money to fund some of the projects, and that's kind of how I did it. But there's loads of ways that you can do it. You've just got to use your skill sets. But again, you can borrow money. A lot of people get, again, this cost versus investment mindset. If you can borrow money at 6% and you can make 17% out of it running as a short-term rental, then you're still making 11%. Borrow the 6%. Borrow as much as you possibly can. It's a good investment. You know, it doesn't matter. Even if you could, you know, and technically you could borrow at 16% and still make money. You know, you'd make 1%, which might not be worth the hassle, but at the same time, you know, you get the idea. So always be looking to borrow money, 0% credit cards, even APR-based credit cards, furniture loans, that sort of stuff. Money mindset is everything in this game, and you've got to be working on it. You've got to get comfortable with money. You've got to get comfortable with asking people for money. You've got to get comfortable with borrowing money. You've got to, you know, get comfortable with loans. That is the game we're in. So you've got to get comfortable with it. And if you're not, you need to work on your money mindset. And, you know, you've got to really just start to trust money and understand that money is just a flow. Money flows to people that want it the most. You know, it's as simple as that. If you want money, you'll get money. If you're focused on, you know, I guarantee you now that, like, if someone came and raided all of our bank accounts and took us down to zero, but we all still had the same overheads, we'd all be out there tomorrow morning, probably wouldn't even wait till tomorrow morning thinking, right, I gotta go and do something. I gotta go and, jump on the streets and sell something. I've got to go and, get a car boot sale going. I've got to, you just instinct, you go. And that's the same with this, but you've got to kind of force it on yourself. It'll naturally probably happen when you start to get tight with cash flow. But really, you want to have around 90 days worth of cash in your business. So what that means is 90 days worth of operational costs. So, if you weren't to bring in any revenue whatsoever, do you have 90 days worth of cash in it? This saved me through COVID because I was doing this before COVID. So I always made sure I had this. Now, I got through COVID by having that in my bank account. It meant I didn't have to go to any landlords and say, can I have a rent reduction or can I not pay any rent? I just kept doing as I was doing. And I actually then forced myself to actually drive profit through by creating some Facebook ads and putting in nurses into the houses for a couple of weeks at a time for next to nothing, but I was still bringing money in, again, back against the wall type scenario. So always be thinking about it, always be trying to, if you haven't got 90 days cash in your bank, how can you get 90 days cash in your bank right now? If you need that money, you should always have that money in. So how can you do it? Do a profit IPO, find some money, borrow some money, network, leverage your skill sets, and just really get out there. Use 90-day plans. So write yourself a letter every 90 days. Again, you review it every 30 days, break it down in 30-day intervals, but just 90 days from now, I will be here, I will be doing this, I will have this, I will look like this, blah blah blah, and just write it down and then stick it somewhere every 30 days, review it, and in fact, review it 5 minutes a day, weekly for 30, monthly for an hour, quarterly for a day. This isn't goals. Every quarter on one of my Dubai trips, I have a full day, if not 2 days, by myself. I just lock myself away in one of the hotels and I just go into my business. I just sit by the pool, I review everything, I think about where I want to go, I have a look at where we've come, what we've achieved, and then I start then planning out of the stuff. I come out of those 2 days, I turn my phone off pretty much. I don't really contact anybody. I'm just me, my thoughts, and my iPad, and I'm just beaving away. And then I kind of come out of that and I'm ready to go again. I've created so many ideas by just being in what I call my think tank. Spend a lot of time just floating around the pool thinking about stuff, but it's not just lazing around. It's actual, right, where's the business gone, what worked, what didn't work, how can I get it better, how can we do this, what staff do we need, and just really trying to kick it forward. It's really important to do it. I'd advise any of you to do it. You speak to any millionaires, billionaires, to tell you that some of them go away for a week at a time, turn off all technology, just sit on a beach and just think about what's gone on, what hasn't worked, what's worked, just them and the notepad. Because when it's just you and your thoughts with no distractions, it's amazing what happens. Nearly there. Short-term, long-term goals. So short-term choices and long-term ones. Short-term keeps money in the bank, and long-term makes you have sustainable business. So you've got to be thinking, obviously you need to be doing both. So your short term will be, we've got to acquire, a load of management units, we've got to acquire a load of rent units. Your long term will be, we need to be acquiring, 10 assets per year with this amount of property value, with this type of cash flow return. That's kind of your long-term strategy. My short term. So my short term, my short to medium term is I want to build the business up to a certain size, and then maybe look for an acquisition. And then from that money with the acquisition, what I will then do is just buy more property, but then just give it to the person that's acquired the business. So, and then my assets that I'm building up now, they'll always remain my assets. I won't sell them, but because if I then sell the acquisition side of the business, then I'll then give the long-term assets to that person to just run on short-term rental. So I'm still getting an ROI, I'm still getting my money while I sleep, but then I've still got the assets. So that's kind of just in brief my short-term, medium-term and long-term goals. So what I want to do in the long term is get as many assets as I possibly can. However, I'm not panicked to do that because I know that I'm going to probably buy the bulk of my assets once I get a payout from achieving my short-term and medium-term goals of building this Luke Stays model up to 5,000 units. So I know what that's worth financially, but then I can then buy a hell of a lot of assets with that money long term. So that's kind of just a bit of a brief of how you can look at things. But short term means you might need to attend multiple viewings while still building out your acquisitions team and systems to ensure you hit your revenue goals. So again, that's just breaking it down even further into kind of a short term, long term. You know, and you can just keep stacking them and you just keep working on them. You need cash. You're always going to need cash. Always be source of money. Never stop source of money, because growth sucks cash flow. You know, if I keep all the money I generated, then I might actually be quite rich. But, you know, I constantly pump it back into the business all the time. It's going back in, whether it's new technology, whether it's more properties, furniture, staff, office space. It's always going back into the business, because I know at some point it's going to pay off. So huge growth sucks cash. So if you want to move quickly, you'll burn cash. But it also means that you get into a place much quicker where you will then become very, very profitable. So I know basically if I just keep digging in, doing what I'm doing, eventually we'll end up with so many units that it'll become a point where the business is just very, very profitable. And then I'll probably have more cash each month than I'll even know what to do with. So that's the idea of, but by keep reinvesting it back in means that we're growing at that quick rate. I didn't pull any money out of the business personally for the first 2 years. So just side note there, if you can pull that off, great. If you can't, obviously you've got to take what you got to take, but don't change your lifestyle, because these businesses do suck cash. Wherever you're at now, you know, even if you start to, you know, tick through that sort of £500,000, £1 million mark, don't change your lifestyle. Just keep your lifestyle as you know, plain as it can be, as low as it possibly can, because that'll mean you can put more money in, which gets you to that very, very profitable position quicker. And that's hard to do, because when you're getting money through, you're a bit like, oh, I want to treat myself, and yeah, you should do things, but you know, don't go from like, you know, having this as your sort of monthly outgoings to this. Increase it slightly, worst case scenario, to give yourself a bit of a pat on the back. But you know, growth does suck cash. You know, and profit at the higher end is much easier. So you will have more profit as your business gets towards the end, which sounds daft, but you're all building businesses here that have got an acquisition game. You've got a business to sell, because it's a recurring revenue business, whether you're doing management, whether you're doing rental arbitrage, or whether you're buying assets. You, as a property in this space, short-term rental space, there's a lot of venture capitalists out there who want to buy hospitality businesses, ones that have got large volumes, and they want to then take them on. I do the same now. I'd rather buy, like I was in Portugal last week trying to acquire a business with 60 units in it. I'd rather buy those 60 units than have to go and find 60 units, because we can just plug them in and get them cash flowing straight away. And there's a lot of businesses like that. So your end goal is probably selling your business, and that should always be your end goal. And that's when you'll get your golden ticket. And then from that, you can then decide how you want to reinvest the money. What you're doing now is the hard work to get it to that check. That's the way I look at it anyway. So you should always be sourcing properties and funding at the same time. It should never be one or the other, because it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank right now. It could be tens of millions, it could be billions, it could be trillions. You will run out of money buying property. It's a fact, you know. So you've got to always be sourcing both properties and funding at the same time. Remember where you've come from. Again, this is just kind of reflecting on, you know, your 90 days. Always, you know, be proud of what you've accomplished in that time frame. You know, pat yourself on the back, but just remember where you have come from. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. I always tell myself pretty much daily that, you know, although I've had a really good success, you know, it could go tomorrow. It nearly did in COVID. That was a bit of a warning, you know, but it can go tomorrow. It can go as quick as it's come. So just keep doing what you're doing, keep your head down, and keep moving forward. Keep taking things off your plate, keep delegating, keep getting to that zone of genius, and eventually you want to get rid of that zone of genius as well. So keep assessing what you're doing on a weekly basis to get to that pure place of genius. You want to be able to work wherever you want, whenever you want, from wherever you want, with whoever you want. That is the ultimate goal. And, you know, I do feel like I've achieved that now. And it's a nice place to be, but don't get me wrong, it's been like the iceberg, as everyone says, behind the scenes, and the iceberg's still there as well, but you've got to work hard to get it there. But it is a very nice place to be, but it definitely comes from the delegating. And, you know, I saw a friend today who he has got 230, I think it is, buy-to-lets that he's built up over the last 15 years. He still manages them all himself. He was going out today whilst we're having coffee, gets a phone call off a tenant. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you got so much money coming in on a monthly basis, albeit it's buy-to-let money, so it's probably not as big as we think, because obviously the margins, say if he's making, I don't know, 200 quid a unit, you still got 50 grand a month coming in. He can afford someone to go out and do all the running around, but he probably could have got to 2, 3, 4,000 units had he got out of his own way, had he delegated tasks, had he employed staff, but he didn't, you know. So again, I mentioned this, you're building a business to sell, it's got value, decent volume of properties under control is worth a lot of money to the right person, and there's plenty of potential buyers out there. Every time I go to conferences, the bigger ones, like in Barcelona, I got offered, someone wanted to buy my business. You're always getting people, oh, if you ever want to sell, let me know, blah, blah, blah. Get a good financial company that doesn't just do tax management. You want someone who's managing your finances and helping you grow your business from an early stage. My second hire was a bookkeeper, and it was a very important one. Warren Buffett says number one skill you need in business is accounting. I think he knows a thing or two about growing businesses and making money. So if you don't know your finances, you don't have a business. There's so many people that I've coached over the years, and even still to this day get messages from, who don't really know how each property is performing, don't really know how accounts work, don't really have any support around them. It's all right if that's you, then that's fine. Just put your hand up and say, yeah, all right, that's me now, but I need to change that. I taught myself how to write spreadsheet formula. It's one of the best skill sets you'll ever teach yourself how to do. And then you can literally dissect data as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible to give you the best decisions that you need. I've got landlords now wanting to renew contracts from 3 years ago, and they're wanting to bump the rent up on me. All I have to do is go into my spreadsheets, look at what the properties have earned over the years, look at what the averages are going to be, blah, blah, blah. Within seconds, I can say, you're asking too much, it needs to be this. And they'll say, well, why does it need to be that? And I'll say, because that's what it needs to be, or I kind of take it on because it's not going to be profitable. So, I know that because I've got the data. I know that because we've got the financials there. We've built the accountancies out behind the scenes. So I'm a big believer in numbers. And the more you work with me, the more you'll hear that. But if you don't know your numbers, and this is the same for everything, this isn't just accounts. This is, you should know, what your engagement numbers are on your social medias. You should know, what your viewing stats are. You should know what your conversion stat is from viewing to acquisition, all that sort of stuff. The more numbers you know, the easier it is, because life and business is just a numbers game. You got to make choices based on what your accounts are telling you, not what's in your bank account. You might have 100 grand in your bank account, but you might actually be losing money on a monthly basis. If you don't know which properties are losing your money, then how are you ever going to figure out which ones to cut and then get back into a profitable situation? You've got to be able to analyze this. I mentioned earlier on the call, in our management meeting, we have a problem property meeting. Every month we work out which properties underperformed the previous month. And then we'll also have the last 3 months data there at hand as well. If a property is badly performed for the last 3 months, we look to get rid of it. We'll do a deal with the landlord, we'll get out. Because if it's not performing, it's not performing. You just got to cut the loss. If you haven't got that data, how are you ever going to make that decision? You've got to understand, where your money's going. You've got to understand where you can pump money into. On the other side of it, you look at, okay, well, I've got 100 grand to invest. Which properties are working? Well, 4-bed townhouses in Gateshead seem to be working very well. They're making 3.5 grand a month. Right, well, let's go and buy more of them. Let's not bother with the 2-bed flats that are only making 500 quid. Let's go and buy more of them big houses. Because we've got the data to hand, because we've got the financials, we know what's what, and you make better decisions and you grow a hell of a lot quicker. You're looking at these daily cash flow forecasts, profit and loss reports, growth charts, etc. It's one thing to make money, it's a whole other thing to keep money. As you start to get profitable, as you start to really build up your businesses, there's a lot of people that want your money, mainly HMRC, and they will take as much of it as they can get. But with property, you can be very, very tactical with your tax, and there's so many benefits that you can leverage on. As I've said here, whether it's writing tax off through capital allowance claims, or reducing your VAT through lower threshold refurbishment schemes. There's so many different ways and means that you can run your businesses profitable and pay less tax. And it's really important that you wrap yourself around a good team around you. I know my team, my tax management team, my accountancy team, the specialists that I've hired over the years, they've cost me tens of thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands, but they've saved me 7 figures, easily saved me 7 figures. And at first I didn't want to invest in them because I used to see it as a cost, but then I changed my mindset around it, and they're just as important as the property hosts that run the properties on a daily basis, because they save me so much money, and that money then gets reinvested into the business. So rather than paying HMRC loads of corporation tax, I can actually go and buy property. It's a no-brainer. That property then creates more cash flow for me that I can then pump back into the business. It's all legitimate. It's all done properly. It's all done through, tax specialists. It's just understanding what you can and can't do with this type of business. But we are in a very unique business sector to be able to leverage stuff. Finally, work hard, work smart, stay focused, but just be you. Like, don't try and be somebody else. It's important to have freedom and money, but at the same time, you don't want to be working all hours under the sun that you blow your life up, and you want to be make sure you've got a good balance, but at the same time you don't want to be doing nothing that you've got no money in your bank account or not getting any results. So it's finding that balance, but just be you. And if you don't want to do something, don't do it. If you're not passionate about something, don't do it, because motivation will only get you so far. If you're not passionate about it, you'll give up eventually. You'll not stay disciplined, you'll not stay committed. So you've got to find something that you're passionate about. If you're just chasing the shiny penny and you're not really that passionate about it, then you'll not last the course and you'll probably not succeed. So you've got to really find something that you are passionate about, and then leverage that, and it will pay dividends. So that's pretty much what I've learned doing what I've done, and hopefully there's plenty to unpack there. And if anyone's got any questions, I'm quite happy to take some questions, or any questions or comments. But I think there's a lot in there, but the main thing for me is try and get good people around you as quick as you possibly can. I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways from what I've done so far. And I would say volume of activity on the deal sourcing side of things, whether it's from yourself or whether it's through leveraging other people's time, is just volume, opening messages, opening conversations, speaking with the right people, marketing your business, getting yourself out there, and just getting that attraction and getting that lead flow going. Any business in any industry that can create leads has got a business forever. Period. If you can create customers, if you can get leads into your business, you've got a business forever. It doesn't matter whether you're selling toothbrushes, you're trying to recruit property, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you can generate leads, you've got a business forever. And for me, that is kind of where I think I've come from in terms of this property game. And we've got quite a good way of generating leads, creating the brand, and on a daily basis, whether that's us going out to find the leads or whether it's the leads coming in. We have a system. It's all in Kajabi, so everything that I've done, I've pretty much done a video on it. It's all in there. Get stuck into it. The people that watch the videos definitely get the best results, and because it's soaking up that content and it's putting it into play. Again, don't just become a course junkie and watch all the videos and do nothing. Actually, take action with the videos. But it's an amazing game, and I'm looking forward to kind of helping everyone grow and growing together, and building the businesses and going from there, really.